The story of Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah is one of the most dramatic and well-known accounts in the Bible, rich in symbolism, moral themes, and theological implications. It was a tale of two cities full of chaos and portrayed as a center of grave sin and divine judgment. A man who had to make a difficult choice, and the outcome of that choice. Our story begins in the ancient land of Canaan, thousands of years ago. A time of dusty roads, nomadic herders, and tents under the open sky. Lot was the nephew of Abraham, a man chosen by God to be the father of many nations. They traveled together, living as nomads. But as their families, possessions, and flocks grew, the land couldn't support them both. As a result, tensions rose between their herdsmen. So Abraham made his nephew an offer to prevent further arguments between the camps. He told Lot to choose where he wanted to go, and he would in turn go the other way. Lot looked out across the land. He saw the lush, green Jordan Valley, full of water, crops, and busy cities. He chose the land that looked appealing. These were the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham stayed in Canaan, and Lot moved near the cities. At first, Lot camped outside Sodom, but over time, he moved into the city. Sodom looked like paradise, but it was a dangerous place. The people there were proud, cruel, careless, and indifferent to the poor and needy. They had no respect for God or for each other. Lot was troubled. He believed in God, but he was surrounded by people who didn't. Then one day, something interesting happened. Three mysterious men, two angels and the Lord himself, visited Abraham as the patriarch of the Israelites. After confirming that Sarah would bear a son, Isaac, the visitors revealed their intent to investigate the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah as it had become too much. Abraham, knowing that his nephew lived in the valley cities, pleaded with God for mercy. He asked that the cities be spared if 50 righteous people could be found there. If there are even 10 good people in Sodom, God said, I will not destroy it. Ultimately, not even 10 righteous people could be found. That evening, two angels arrived at Sodom and were welcomed by Lot, who was sitting at the city gate. He insisted that they stay in his home for the night, and the angels agreed. But that night, a mob surrounded Lot's house and demanded that the visitors come out. Their intentions were violent and wicked. Lot opened his door and met the crowd at the entrance to his home. He begged them to stop, making them an offer that confirmed the extent of abomination in the land and a conflict in Lot's own morals. But the crowd insisted on their pursuit. The angels then intervened. They pulled Lot back inside his home, shut the door, and struck the mob with blindness. The angels gave Lot a warning to flee Sodom as they intended to destroy the city. They commanded he, his wife, and daughters to flee to the hills for safety and not look back. Lot hesitated, but the angels grabbed Lot and his family by the hand and led them out. As they escaped while the sun was rising, fire and brimstone rained down from heaven, consuming Sodom, Gomorrah, and the surrounding plain. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah and everything that grew in it were wiped off the earth. But as they fled, Lot's wife disobeyed the warning and looked back. At that moment, she turned into a pillar of salt. Lot and his daughters escaped to a cave in the mountains. Everything they knew was gone. To preserve their family line, Lot's daughters bore their father two sons, Moab and Ben-Ami, ancestors of the Moabites and Ammonites, and long-standing rivals of Israel. Lot's story doesn't end in a fairy tale. It ends in isolation. A reminder that even if we survive, our choices have lasting consequences. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah was an example of divine wrath and the symbol of what happens to unrepentant sinners. Still, Lot was saved. God had shown mercy, even in judgment. The life of Lot is a warning against moral ambiguity. Though he was saved for his righteousness, he was morally compromised. His actions and the fate of his wife and daughters showed the tragic consequences of living in a corrupt society and failing to fully separate from it. The story is a reminder that choices matter. Everything that looks appealing is not always good. Sodom and Gomorrah looked like paradise to Lot, and the moral fabric of a society can either lead to its flourishing or its downfall. We are ever surrounded by temptations and challenges: pride, injustice, moral compromise, indifference to the suffering of others, and the temptation to blend in rather than stand for truth. Just as Lot, we too are called to live righteously in a world that often rejects godly values. But unlike Lot, who hesitated and lost much, we are invited to live with boldness, clarity, and compassion. Let the legacy you leave be one of righteousness, not regret.